game that the public has spent ages demanding, and at long last the people will have the game they've been pleading for. But more than just getting their hands on the game, we've all been hoping that Final Fantasy VII Remake will live up to its expectations. And while there are several fans who loved both Final Fantasy XIII and Final Fantasy XV, the games have undeniably also had a number of fans who felt let down by these games. This even has many fans in the community reminding us all to keep our expectations in check about the remake. In light of that situation, Final Fantasy VII Remake not only has the expectation of creating a fulfilling remake of Final Fantasy VII, but also being a Final Fantasy experience that gets the series back on track. And just recently, Final Fantasy VII Remake producer Yoshinori Kitase spoke in an interview with PlayStation Magazine, displaying a very high level of confidence about the situation. Kitase says the original game is now over 20 years old, and the dev team is made up of an interesting mix of developers who worked on the original PS1 game and those who grew up playing it, a formula that Capcom has also used when developing such titles as Resident Evil 2 Remake to a large degree of success. This seems to be the perfect mixture, with Kitase saying on the matter, quote, "As a result, the game that's about to be born even surpasses my own expectations, as the one who voiced a desire to take the endeavor on in the first place. In fact, the one who's looking forward to playing this game the most right now might actually be me," he said. As a firm reminder, Yoshinori Kitase is the man who directed Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI, the original Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, and Final Fantasy X. And of course, he's now the producer of the Remake series. For a man who has directed so many legendary titles, to say this game is blowing him away in that sense, he might just be tooting his own horn here, but honestly, that's pretty huge. He really does feel confident about the quality of this title, which for a man of his experience is truly saying something. We also recently got to take a brief look at the game's box art in South Korea, which revealed the game's massive file size. Final Fantasy VII Remake, once properly installed and uncompressed on your PS4's hard drive, will require 100 gigabytes of storage, which honestly was to be expected as the game is going to ship on 2 dual-layer Blu-ray discs. If any of you are still with your launch PS4 with 500 gigabytes of storage, you may want to consider upgrading your hard drive, because this game alone will be 1/5 of your storage. This of course makes Final Fantasy VII Remake one of the largest file sizes required for a console game ever released, with only a select few titles such as Red Dead Redemption 2 and the upcoming The Last of Us Part 2 with 2 dual-layer Blu-ray discs in the box. What is wild is that the original game also had one of the largest file sizes of its day, being spread across 3 CD-ROMs. And to put this in perspective, the base game of Final Fantasy VII Remake is file size equivalent to the PS4 version of Final Fantasy XV, with all 4 character episodes installed and the Royal Pack, on top of over a full year's worth of updates. And this is the size of Final Fantasy VII Remake before even a single patch or DLC drops for the game, which really shows you just how much they packed into the game. How much of what? Well, we don't really know yet. Though I have to say, it's pretty funny to see how many people genuinely believe this is going to be a 5 to 10 hour story experience. The game is quite clearly massive, and is definitely adding more new content than it is just remade content. That is to say, most of the stuff in this game is original content that we haven't seen before, which is actually really impressive. And we're assuming that there's at least going to be 3 games in this whole series, so when you add up all the file sizes, we're probably looking at a total of like 400 or 500 gigabytes across all of the Final Fantasy VII Remake games. So it's going to be absolutely massive. As I always preface, this statement may not age well, but I genuinely believe that Square Enix is actually going to be able to pull it off and deliver us a Final Fantasy game that just blows us away. But with that said, Ultima Weapons, what do you think? Do you think Final Fantasy VII Remake will live up to fan expectations? Subscribe, click the bell icon, and let me know in the comments below. And if you value the content on this channel, be sure to check out the Patreon for the Night Sky Prince, where these videos are supported by incredible people like Jason Cropper. So if you love these videos as much as Jason does and want to support the channel directly, there's a link in the description below. Shout out to Jason and the rest of the Ultima community.